course, or shall I say their excellencies, since we had the Deputy Governor in attendance there. Moving forward on the show this morning, remember we told you everything will be on education. The big story was featured on education. And still talking education this morning, we have with us, joining us from the Servicom Department of the University of Calabar, Professor, the Director of Servicom himself, Professor Egaga Patrick. Good morning, sir. A pleasure to have you again.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be with you. Good morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So we've had you over time talk about different challenges in the university and all of that, and it's our pleasure to bring you back here to talk to us about a development last week in your institution where 638 students were withdrawn, which caused a whole lot of uproar on social media and different areas. So let's look at this. Why were the students withdrawn in the first place? Because a lot of speculations arose from different quarters. So let's hear from you. Why were the students withdrawn?
Well, beyond the speculations, you understand that the university has a mandate, and that is part of the concern of Servicom, to see that people who require services of the university are served well. Those who provide the services serve the people that require the services well. And I know that the university on its own operates on what we call an academic calendar. There are certain rules, certain regulations, certain statutes that are governing the running of the university. In other words, if you are a staff, there are designated rules for you. If you are a student, you know that these are the right things for you to do. Attend your classes, do your assignments or tests or whatever. That is the continuous assessment. Write your exams, and in the end, your scores will be given. It is the accumulation of those things that lead to the award of either degrees or certificates in the university. That's why we say students are awarded degrees or certificates on the basis of their knowledge and their character. Yes.
So why were these ones now withdrawn? What criteria did they not meet that made them to be withdrawn? Because we saw some people even in their first 100 level were also withdrawn.
Yeah, it's a very simple thing for you to know that if there is a failure to meet up with the demands or the challenges of a particular of a particular system, school system, you'll be asked to withdraw. Of course, you know that whatever happened, it is because of the accumulation. That is what has happened between first and second semester of a particular candidate. In other words, if you fail, of course, you know that right now we are being graded, or students are being graded on what they call the 5-scale, grading system. That means at least you should, the most points you can have is 5 points. But if you score below a 1 point on the cumulative, but that's both first and second semester, you'll be asked to withdraw. And it also depends, because there are certain criteria that are, certain options that are also available. You are withdrawn because you may have repeated a year and still failed that year, or failed to get more the required points to make you, attend or climb to the appropriate year. You are either asked to withdraw, to change program, or to proceed. So, but in this case, when you have withdrawal cases, it is not even peculiar to our university. We know the university operates on what we call the universality. Everything is the same. So, and right now, the population of the university, which I'm not very sure that is below 40,000 students. Only about, only a particular percentage of students is affected. And if they are affected, it's over a period of time. It's not in one semester or in 1 year. But here, what you discover is that instead of us even rushing to social media, what people will have done, the people who log in this result, the exam officers, the other officers that are responsible for the logging in of this result are also human. In other words, if there are cases, for instance, you have mentioned that they are first year students, which means that the year has not ended for them. They have just done 1 semester. And I'm aware, for instance, that there are particular students or particular candidates who have complained, either told me or told the appropriate channel, and their problems have been addressed. In other words, in the computation of these results, there may be human error. Okay? You have to, that cannot be discontinuous. There may be human error. So if these human errors are, committed in such a way that, for instance, you are supposed to do 1 year before you have the cumulative grade point average, and you have done just 1 semester, there is no way by which you can have it. So nobody will ask you to withdraw within that time, within this period. In other words, you have to do a full year for you to have the CGPA, what we call the CGPA, cumulative grade point average.
So that means a number of people who were affected and who felt unjustifiably so should have
Yes.
approached the university.
Yes,
system
of course. The university is not a punitive ground. It's not a prison. It's not a correctional center. So if you feel justifiably that you have done beyond or you have scored beyond the points you are given, you have the right to complain. And those things are normally sorted out. Yes.
Esther, before we come to you on this, another allegation that the VC met heavily under this, she came under a lot of criticism, was the fact that this was some sort of vendetta against the Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly, because his name was also mentioned on the list, and a lot of people made it look like she had some sort of vendetta against him, since the same position was being contested with her son, Right Honorable Hilary Bisson, and the incumbent Speaker of the House. Does this have to do with some sort of personal, could this be carried out as some sort of personal differences?
It is very sad that we have to talk about that on the pages of, on a worldwide view.
Yeah.
But what you have to understand is that even beginning from from the point of such assertions, you know that there's a tinge, there's an element of blackmail in it. In other words, the respected Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly, his name is not supposed to be mentioned. It's unfortunate that one way or the other, his name appeared among the list of the candidates that were affected. And the whole wide world, even in the Ivy League universities, Ivy League, that's the best universities in the world, Oxford University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge University, University of Cambridge, and so on. No matter how strong the Vice Chancellor is, there is no Vice Chancellor, for instance, that has the absolute power, that has who will even muster the temerity or the gumption to say a particular student, because I do not like their face, will withdraw from the system. In other words, what happened about this result matter is not a matter for social discourse. It's unfortunately, the University of Calabar is one of those few universities in this country that is placed within the town. So anything that happens in a town is already common knowledge. For instance, there are universities that are far flung. You don't know what happens there. Yeah. But in our own system, the university is right within town. You can move from there to a beer parlor, move from there to a drinking joint, and you are already transmitting whatever has happened. But what I want to tell you, what I know to be the truth, is that there is no element of vendetta in this case. Like I told you, if there is anybody that feels that whatever I have as result is not justifiable, it's not what I have, or not what I'm supposed to have, you could approach your exam officer, approach your head of department. All these persons are available. And of course, when they make access to them becoming combatant, you have the right to complain. Of course, that is even part of the responsibility of my office. And I make such persons get the right services in the university. So for us to insinuate that, it is baseless for us to insinuate.
The accusations have been
in any case, I'm aware that the speaker has even debunked it. He said that is not what that result is not his.
As it should be.
Yes, it's not what it should be.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the issue of the withdrawal, away from the political situation there. Okay. The withdrawal stance, it has happened. Students have been withdrawn. Now, is it a measure to depopulate the university? You said something about a small, percentage of the university community amongst the students being withdrawn. Is this an avenue to, depopulate the student community, or is there something else to it?
There is actually nothing like that, because the students were ab initio admitted or admitted correctly. Yeah. There has, in the process of their withdrawal from the university, nobody has stated that it is because the university is overpopulated that we are withdrawing you. You are withdrawn on the basis of your performance or non-performance or failure to perform. Okay. In this case, in other words, there is a rule, there is a standard, there is a standard behavior. You cannot remain in the university forever. The university is not a correctional center. It is not a vocational center. It is not a skill acquisition center that you can go to the place, learn the skill and remain in the same place forever. In other words, if you are unable to perform, you just have to leave. Because it's just like You know, it's a clinical or confirmation name for repeat. Because they say you are on probation or change program. That means repeat that same class that you have failed or change program. But in the case of withdrawal, the performance is far below what is expected.
Right. We'll go on a very quick commercial break now, and when we come back, we'll be looking at this withdrawal of student that has happened to university. This is something that should, deter students from being non-performative when it has to do with their academic pursuit. So we'll see you right after this short commercial break. Stay with us. Back from that break there. Now, before we went on that break, we had with us, we still have with us the Director Servicom of the University of Calabar in person of Professor Egaga Patrick, and we've been having a whole lot of exposure when it has to do with the University of Calabar academic performances and the withdrawal of 38 students rather. So, Director, let's look at the consequences of withdrawing this number of students. What led to this withdrawal of students?
I just told you in very simple terms that the students were withdrawn for non-academic performance. They couldn't get to the average of what is required for each of the programs they were registered for. And you know, there is an average. The average is 1 point. If you score below a point, in your cumulative means both first and second semester, those points are added together and you are unable to achieve 1 point. You'll be asked to withdraw.
There are a lot of people on social media, because this was where this issue was judged and addressed, which was not supposed to be so. And made it look like this is something the VC was introducing, which you have actually made clear that no VC has the right to withdraw students on their own. They made it look like this is the first time something like this is happening in the history of universities. Is this the first time we are seeing something like this?
It could be seen as the first time because the university administration, as I experienced it, especially now, is kind of reformative. You know, in times past, we have had students who are like traditional students, who are like vocational students, who are like permanent students, who are like, you know, indigenes of the university. Because year in, year out, you go out and come back and you find them in the same university still studying or pretending that they are studying. Those kind of elements should not be in the university because they are the ones who become miscreants, who create problems, even for this system, when they are not even from the state. They are the ones who create problems both in the system and outside the state. So, but the essence is that the number is quite large, but you discover that those results cover a particular period of time. Now, if you look at it, especially based on social boundaries or what are happening in the society, those results came out, you know, during the NSAS, either both during the NSAS and the COVID-19 era. You know, COVID-19 had a lot of consequences. Nobody really has done a research to tell us the consequences it has in education. These are part of the consequences. This withdrawal syndrome that we are seeing, it is. Because during that time, a lot of people could not, you know, meet up with certain challenges or certain demands. But you also discover that what has happened is an eye-opener to those that are still in the system. That is if their eyes will ever
open. We're getting to that. Okay. We're getting to that part that this looks like something that has come to stay in the University of Calabar. So what should be done to avoid repetition by those who are still students?
You see, now we have students who are like correspondence students, even though they are not correspondence agents of CROBC or Radio Nigeria. They don't come to school. When they are in school, they don't study. The ones who even go for study, most times they concentrate on their Android phone. The Android phones, most times they are even bandaged. They are in class, they don't pay attention, they don't do they don't study. In fact, this reading culture was re-engineered, reinvented by the current administration, where we ensure that all the classrooms in the university are lighted up, so that when students can come at night to read, where we ensure that even the streets in the university are lighted up, so that it will scare off people who come with, you know, dubious intentions to the university, or either to waylay students or passers-by, and give students a sense of security. But the students don't take advantage of that. In fact, even as I talk to you now, if you go to almost on a daily basis, we are having cases of people who, you know, marooners who enter the university, snatch phones from students and so on and so forth. Snatch their phones, snatch their personal belongings and so on. But the essence is that if you don't want to be withdrawn, you have to pursue that for which you have come here for. You have to stay glued to whatever you have come. There shouldn't be socials if you are a student. There is no time for social. There is no time for visitation of friends. And you know, yes, there is no doubt about that. But you discover that the students, especially now, there are a number of distractions that students have. Students are now exposed to the extent that you have a television in your room, you have a radio, your radio player is more than that is even available to CROBC, you have an Android phone. So there are different kinds of challenges. They stay glued to their phone. They don't, even in that phone that you are supposed to use and research on the topics that are taught in class, they don't do that. What they do is to go into socials. So, you know, those things compete with their performances. So the students don't pay attention. They are not diligent. They are not serious about, you know, most of them are not serious. I will say most of them are not serious about why they have come to the university. And that is the reason for this kind of failure.
Okay, so we'll look at this this recent development as a measure by the university to purge out the system of, you know, serious students. Is that what it is?
Well, the university is not. It's not a deliberate policy of the student of the university to purge out the students. Purge now in quote.
Okay.
It is their own. It is the desire of the students whether to remain in school or to be withdrawn. That should be of you know, understanding.
Okay.
So it is left for you now to decide whether I have come to school to stay for 4 years. Will I stay or will I go back?
Okay.
And you know that right now there are a number of things that are competing with the students in terms of their study. Politics, business, socials, travel, whatever. All these things are combined together. So most times when you go, even if you go to the street and students are still there, there are some who are supposed to, you know, the university just reopened for the new session sometimes 29th of last month or 29th of July. But there were students who didn't go. And the kind of provisions they have in school, even in a crossover radio here, even in government house. No, I'm coming. Even in government house, the governor does not have
your
the governor does not have such facilities. They don't seize their life. There's water supply 24 hours. They have lights 24 hours, even at night, to make things convenient for them, to make studies convenient for them. But they don't use such opportunities.
Okay, so before we let you go up this morning, let's hear your message to cross-reference out there, especially your students in particular.
Well, number one, what I'll say is that in spite of insinuations, and I wouldn't say blackmail, because if you insinuate, it was because the information was not available to you. In spite of the insinuations, this action of the university is not a vendetta. It is in line with the direct mandate of the university. Like I told you, you know, it is because we are situated in town, everybody seems to feel concerned about what happens there. Just like happenings in the local government area. So the university gives degrees or awards degrees and certificates on the basis of both knowledge and character. If one aspect only is available and the other one is missing, you can't get our degree. The knowledge means that you are able to pass your exams. Character means what is available to you. Even if we don't want to judge you strictly by your character, at least have the knowledge. It is because this knowledge is deficient that we have asked the students to go away. But the students who feel aggrieved, not just aggrieved, who feel that what they have is not what they are supposed to have. You know that there are several channels of communication in the university. The university is not a shrine. That is where the school. So they can come, complain, get to their department, go to the exam officers, go to their heads of departments and say, no, this result, this was what I scored. It may be an error. Of course, you know that these processes go on through a number of persons. The copy typists and the rest of them. So these corrections are also made.
Sure. Thank you so much, Director Servicom, Professor Egaga Patrick. If you're a student in the University of Calabar and you have been unjustifiably withdrawn from the school, go out there, seek a redress, and see how the issue can be fixed. We hope to bring you back some other time to look at more institutional reforms in your school.
Thank you very much.
All right, stay with us. Coming up next, we have the newspaper review headlines with current listening.